The year is 1890. American streets are alive with the familiar sound of clattering hooves and the creak of wooden wagon wheels. Horses are everywhere, hauling goods, pulling trolleys, carrying families. In cities like New York, Boston, and Chicago, manure piles high, and the air is thick with the smell of a transportation system that had not changed for centuries. To imagine anything different was almost unthinkable. And yet, on the horizon, something was stirring. A machine so bold, so unorthodox, that it would divide communities, ignite controversy, and forever alter the destiny of America. This is the story of the Duryea Motor Wagon, the first gasoline-powered car built in America, and the first to spark outrage, admiration, and fear all at once. In Springfield, Massachusetts, two brothers, Charles and Frank Duryea, spent their days surrounded by gears, metal, and the daring spirit of invention. Charles was a visionary, the dreamer who believed the horse's reign over the streets was coming to an end. Frank was the mechanic, the practical builder who could turn his brother's visions into reality. Together, they worked late into the night, sketching designs by lamplight, experimenting with crude engines, and chasing a dream that seemed ridiculous to most of their neighbors. Why build a carriage without a horse? People asked. What good is a wagon that scares animals and breaks down on the road? But the Duryea brothers pressed on. They believed in something bigger than themselves, a future where machines, not animals, would carry America forward. In 1893, their efforts came to life. A strange, boxy carriage stood in their workshop, its wooden frame mounted with iron wheels, its body hiding a noisy gasoline engine. Unlike the graceful horse-drawn carriages outside, this contraption shuddered and roared when started. On a cold September morning, Frank took the machine out onto the streets of Springfield. It rattled, smoked, and coughed, but it moved, propelled not by a horse, but by an explosion of fuel and fire. Passers-by stopped and stared. Some laughed. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Children pointed in excitement, while horses reared in fright at the strange new beast. That day, America witnessed something it had never seen before: a gasoline-powered car rolling down its streets. The world would never be the same again. By 1895, the Duryea Motor Wagon had grown stronger, faster, and more reliable. And in November of that year, it was entered into the Chicago Times-Herald automobile race, the first of its kind in America. The race was brutal. The course stretched across frozen, snow-covered roads, testing both man and machine in conditions that even horses would struggle to endure. Competing against European-built cars, many doubted that the humble American invention stood any chance. But Frank Duryea, gripping the controls of his motor wagon, defied the odds. Through the biting wind and freezing cold, the gasoline-powered machine roared forward. It sputtered, it stalled, but it pressed on. Hours later, to the astonishment of the crowd, the Duryea Motor Wagon crossed the finish line first. An American car had triumphed. The newspapers declared it the dawn of a new age. Suddenly, the Duryea name was famous, and their machine was hailed as the future of transportation. But fame comes with shadows. Only months later, in 1896, the Duryea Motor Wagon became the first automobile in America to be involved in an accident. It happened on the busy streets of New York City. A man behind the wheel of a Duryea wagon lost control and struck a bicyclist. The injured man was taken to the hospital, and the newspapers exploded with headlines. "The dangers of the horseless carriage," screamed one editorial. "A menace to society," warned another. For many, this single accident confirmed their worst fears. These new machines were too dangerous, too fast, too unpredictable. They frightened horses, endangered pedestrians, and had no place in America's cities. What was meant to be a symbol of progress had suddenly become a lightning rod for controversy. Despite the controversy, the Duryea brothers pressed forward. In 1895, they founded the Duryea Motor Wagon Company, making it the first American company to manufacture and sell gasoline-powered cars. Their production was small. Only a handful of vehicles were made, but history had been written. By the turn of the century, dozens of automobile companies had sprung up across America. Each one owed its existence, in some way, to the daring brothers from Massachusetts who had built a wagon without a horse. And though the Duryea Company itself would fade into obscurity, its legacy lived on. Every time a car engine roars to life, every time wheels turn on an open road, it echoes the sound of that first machine rattling down the streets of Springfield. The Duryea Motor Wagon was not just a car, it was a spark. It ignited the imagination of a nation. It inspired invention, competition, and innovation. But it also stirred fear, resentment, and resistance. It was America's first car and its first controversial one. A machine that divided a country, but in the end, pushed it into a new century of progress. Because history is rarely made without conflict, and sometimes the most controversial beginnings lead to the greatest revolutions.